I was cleaning out my potting shed the other day, and guess what I found? A big bag of tulip bulbs that I forgot to get into the ground before it froze. I'm in Michigan, so now my ground is frozen solid. So if you've also forgotten about tulips, or you just didn't get a chance to get them in before the ground froze, here is an option that you can do now to still have some spring blooms. So you're gonna plant them in pots, and I have two nice, good size terracotta pots here that should fit about this amount of tulip bulbs. I like to plant quite a bit, so I have a nice big colorful display. I also found some crocuses that I bought on sale and then completely forgot to plant them. I see some have already actually sprouted. So I'm going to get started. We're first going to fill the terracotta. Actually, you know what? No, we're not. First, the pots have big holes, these ones. So I'm going to cover the hole with a piece of landscape fabric. You can also use a bit of a stone, a piece of a broken piece of pot. You could use a piece of sheet moss on the bottom. I've used all things. I just happen to have this handy, so I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to fill my pot up about a third of the way with potting soil. If you have a pot that you're worried about the drainage, you can put in gravel or stones in the bottom to help with the drainage. I'm not worried about this one. It's got a huge hole, and it's terracotta. So I'm just going to firm that down. And one thing about potting soil is, one, use fresh potting soil, and number two is, before it gets cold, bring some potting soil into either the garage or your basement, or just a place you can keep it out of the way where it's not going to freeze, because then if you do any projects in the winter, you have some unfrozen soil. Otherwise, you're most likely going to have to go to the nursery, which is going to have the more expensive, smaller bags. Okay, so next I'm going to take my bulbs, and you want to make sure that the bulbs are still firm, they don't feel mushy, and they also feel solid, like they don't feel hollow. So you have good bulbs that we can still use for spring blooms. Then I'm going to press them down into the soil. And you're gonna, like I said, I like to have, that one actually feels a bit mushy, I'm not gonna use it. I like to have lots of blooms in my pots, so I am going to plant them tight. I don't want them to touch, but I want them to be close. So a good reference is, they call it egg carton planting. So they're gonna be about as close as eggs in an egg carton. So I'm just filling the pot all the way around with the tulips. Now, with the depth of this pot, they say you should plant 3 times the height of the bulb. So if this is about, it's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So you want to give yourself, say, 4 to 6 inches of space between where the surface of your soil is, whether it's the ground or the pot, and where the bulb is planted. I personally find that in the pots you can go a little bit more shallow. I don't know if that's true. It's just, that's been my experience, is that I can kind of push it a little bit, especially if I have a little bit more of a shallow pot. This is a nice deep one, so it's not a concern. So once I get my entire first layer in, I am going to now put another layer of soil. And this they call a bulb lasagna if you're doing multiple layers in a pot. And you can do them with different types of bulbs, or you can do all one type of bulb, or you can do, if you're doing just tulips, you can do you know, earlier blooming ones and later blooming ones. I like, again, I keep saying it, but I like a big show in my pot. So I'm doing all the same bulbs and just doing 2 layers of them. So it's going to be nice and full and very colorful. These ones that I actually left are, I got them from Color Blends, which is the first time I've ordered from Color Blends. It's called Big Ups. I'll put it up on the screen, and it's already a blend of multiple colors. So I'm already kind of blending by just what I purchased. So again, I'm gonna do another layer, planting them tight but not touching, all the way around, touching all the way around. And if you see any bulbs that look moldy, you're going to want to leave those ones out. You don't want them to be soft, you don't want them to feel hollow, and you don't want them to be moldy. Okay, so now I have my next layer. I'm going to put in another layer of soil, and then because I found these crocuses, I'm going to do one top layer of crocus. So the crocus, obviously them being small, let me pull some out here. Let me see. These ones actually already sprouted. I've never done this with them sprouted. I don't know, actually, they're a little soft. I don't know if these are going to work. But one thing with gardening is give it a go. Just try it, see if it's going to work. I'm going to plant them on top. Being a shallow bulb, it doesn't need much depth to be planted, so these are going to sit on top. And crocuses bloom before tulips, so I will see the crocuses up first and have some nice color, and then when those start to die back, I will have these tulips push through the crocuses. So again, give it a go. If you're not sure, just what do I have to lose? I'm going to plant them and see if they root in and grow. So I'm going to put my next layer of soil to cover up these. And then I'm just going to firm this in. I'm actually going to take just a hair out because, and the reason I'm doing that is you don't want to put the soil all the way to the top of the pot, because when you go to water it, you don't want the soil to be coming out the top of the pot. So it's good to leave a good inch or two from the top of the pot. So that should be good. And now I'm going to put my crocuses on top of that. These guys all around. Now I'm not, because I'm mixing them, I'm not doing it in any type of, the tulips I kind of did a ring around. These I'm just going to kind of plunk around. So I just want the colors mixed. I guess you could go every other, but I find anything that looks too patterned, it doesn't look very natural and doesn't look as nice. Okay, so now I've got my crocuses on top. I'm going to do a final layer of soil on top. Make sure everything's good and firmed in. And then what I'm going to do is give this one good watering. I'm not going to soak it, but you know, I want it to be, the soil to be moist. The soil's not bad, but it is dry. And then I'm not going to water it again. I will check on it kind of mid-winter to make sure it's not too dry. But you don't want them to rot, so you don't want the soil to be wet. It's okay for it to be slightly moist or damp, but not wet. The next thing is, if you're in a cold zone like me, I'm in zone 6B, don't put this outside. Don't just set it. If I do them early and I have them already rooted in, I'll leave them outside in a protected spot. But otherwise, if I'm planting them now, if I put them out now, this is going to just freeze solid right away. I'm going to put them in my unheated garage, and it stays a little warmer in there, so it gives them a chance to root in a little bit and stay mild in there and not freeze solid. What you don't want though as well is you don't want to put them, say, in your basement or in your house somewhere. You want them to stay cold. I don't want it to turn to a block of ice. Where I am, it gets very cold. So I'm going to put these in my unheated garage. If not, if it still feels moist, I don't want to say damp, I don't want it wet, I just want it where it doesn't feel dry, then I will just leave it until spring. In March, I will pull them out of the garage and I'll move them outside so they can start to just get the natural rain and sunlight and come up naturally on their own. And that'll be that. So I hope this video was helpful, and subscribe if you did find it helpful, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.